This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, hello, everyone. What a wonderful day this is.
It is? I'm having a typical Northwest. It's like rain for the next 6 months.
We just have gray out there, but it's all right.
Right. Spoken like a true Northwesterner.
Yeah.
It's a lovely day, a lovely shade of gray. That's where the 50 Shades of Grey really came from.
Yes, but it's nourishing. You see, this is nourishing. It's great because it means there's moisture in the air. You know, when I used to live in California, you know, it was like, that's dry. So I appreciate the gray out there.
That's a whole other topic we could get into because I had a conversation with a cactus once that explained the difference. I'm very uncomfortable in arid places because of the lack of moisture. So a cactus told me to adjust my sun-water balance, and I did, and Arizona didn't seem so bad.
Isn't that fun?
And then I came back to SeaTac in the pouring rain. It was like, ooh, I got to adjust back again.
So, well, what are we talking about today, Joe?
Today we are talking about accessing unseen help as consciousness. We're going to talk a little bit about what is unseen help, you know, what are angels, guides, aliens, ghosts, etc. And then we're introducing a new way as consciousness to relate to them. So just stay tuned because we're going to be playing in the unseen, found in the ever-expanding spectrum of all.
And like that cactus, right? Had information.
The cactus was pretty visible, but his information was kind of unseen.
Totally. Well, and we want our listeners, if you would like to join us in conversation here, the first 10 minutes is always a good time to call in. And that number is at 1-844-390-8255. And what do we want them to?
We want to invite you to go deeper with us and connect with us beyond the show. We have a website which is really easy to remember. It's called ConsciousConversationsWithJoanandJanet.com.
And write that out a few times. Okay.
Right. But you can actually go there and listen to all the podcasts. So if you missed any of us, we're on there. The podcast, you can also access my website and Janet's website. You can read my blog and Janet's blog. You can see my videos and the show's videos. You can go and see all about our meetups. We have a meetup page there that tells you how to get in touch with Janet's meetups and how to get in touch with mine. I'm going to be in Lakewood this weekend on October 29th. So if you want to see me, the information is there. And also about Joan and Janet sessions. Janet does fabulosity, wonderful sessions. And you can also find us on Facebook. We're on Facebook, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Janet is on Facebook as Janet Barrett. I am on Facebook as Joan Marjorie Newcomb. And we're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as Joan M. Newcomb. I have a lot of fun on Twitter if you want to know more about Esther the Wonder Pig and the ideal, wonderful things that corgis are doing. I tweet all about that, and the Yorkshire Shepherdess, how she runs her farm in Yorkshire with her 6 children. Oh, I digress. And the show is also on it at Joan and Janet. So you can have lots of ways to get in touch with us. My videos are on YouTube, and the show is on YouTube as well. So you could binge listen to us on YouTube.
And you've got something coming up the 29th.
I did jump ahead and say that. Yes, so I am doing a deeper consciousness talk, and it is a tool for transformation. I'm going to be at Tammy B's Showcase, which is at the Burr Restaurant in Linwood. It actually starts, I think, at 4:30, but my talk is at 6, and there's going to be lots of other people doing lots of other, showcasey psychic type stuff there. So it'll be interesting.
That's just in a few days. And we've got our free conscious conversation telephone call. There's so many C's today. It's driving me nuts.
Janet, let's make it simple. It's a conscious conference call.
Right.
Conscious conference call.
There we go. November 17th at 7 p.m. Pacific. We had the most marvelous time last week with the people on board for the call. And it was just deep and profound, and it was just had so much quiet, which is not something to scare anyone at all. It's the ability to reach in a group and just really explore. And it was just marvelous. So I want to thank everyone who was part of that, and for all of you that'll listen to it and add into it. So so we have our call-in listeners. If you want us,
you jumped ahead, Janet. I was going to say something about the conscious conference call.
Oh, go ahead.
So yes, we do. We do it once a month. So we had our October one last week. It was pretty phenomenal. I want to chime in on that as well. It was a great illustration of the power of a small group. That you can get a taste of what this is about when you're listening to the show like this. And Janet brings us into heart space. And every time we go into heart space, Janet, you bring us into heart space. I just feel like I'm in a giant raft going down the river holding a Mai Tai. So the small group experience amplifies that, and you get to have that without the same kind of broad spectrum interference that you might feel when you're on a radio show that's broadcasting to 190 countries. So the small group you actually get in and chime in on, and it was a fantastic group of people. There were people who knew about this stuff as well, and they help hold that resonance as well. So it was really strong, and I'm really looking forward to the one that is coming up. It's on November 17th, as Janet said, and you can access that. You can get the information about that on our website. You can sign up and register for the call and get the super secret phone number to join us.
And you don't even have to say anything, because we have some people that but they're there, they're present. It's not always the verbal, and information shows up, how it relates to each of us in our lives, and it just adds to the whole. It's just amazing, because then you get this dynamic going that is just really precious. And I use that word not in a sweet way. It's just so valuable and rare. And we don't want it to be rare anymore. We want it for everyone to be able to partake of it. And it's got to make a difference. I know it makes one in mine, that's for sure. So, and so listeners, you can call in 1-844-390-8255 if you want. But what's our subject? Let's get to our subject.
Okay, so our subject is accessing unseen help. And what do we mean by unseen help, Janet?
Something that's not physical? What would you say?
Well, I guess unless you're
can't
blind.
see it. Yeah.
Unless you're blind, then everything is unseen. But so to me, it is something that you don't access through your physical senses. Your seeing is one of them, but you can access through your extrasensory perceptions. And we have given these experiences names like angels, guides, aliens, ghosts, and the main thing about them is that they're unseen. So it's kind of funny how you can have on one side be something that's scary that's unseen, like a ghost, and on the other side you can have something that is helpful because it's an angel.
Right. I think all of that is just the labels create something to interface with, right, and make it more real in some sense, because humans like to know that they're safe. Right, and I think a lot of this comes out of those morphic fields that we've developed over time. But as consciousness, and you're the first to say it, and I certainly back you up on it, it's all a part of who we each are and can access on our own. So it probably guides people's lives in ways we're not always conscious of, right? It's like we have something going on, and then all of a sudden information or the person, and that's the fun part, is that if you open up to the idea that it doesn't, the information can show up in a real person or in a thing, how that interfaces, how we're dancing all the time as consciousness.
Well, yes, and we are constantly shifting our story about how all of this is organized and it's seen and unseen as we continue to expand in consciousness. So back in the days where we were all helpless little ants crawling around on this planet, angels were really powerful beings that heralded us and gave us, information from the divine. Mm-hmm. And at some point, the interaction has changed over time. And I have a lot more to say about this, but I'm going to keep you in suspense. I will let you know on November 8th what I feel about this. I will actually let you know in a few minutes, but we have to stop for a commercial break. So you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and stay tuned because we're talking about accessing unseen help as consciousness in a state of great grace, and we'll be right back.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, and I'm along here with Janet. We are talking about accessing unseen help as consciousness.
Yeah, now you left us kind of hanging there, Joan.
I was leaving you in suspense.
Right.
So here's several things. One is that, on one level of awareness is there's a whole hierarchy of beings that are unseen, that are here and available to help. And, they've been known as angels. They've been given specific names, Archangel Michael, he's the Archangel of light bringers, for one thing. And then there's another way of being aware of it. There's devas. So like the deva of the broccoli plant is actually the overarching architect of all broccoli plants in the world. Also, when two or more people come together, then an angelic presence is formed. So, actually the United States has an angelic presence. Your town has an angelic presence. I just realized when I was talking to you this morning that also would mean that, your marriage would have an angelic presence. Hadn't really thought about that before.
Might not be working, but...
It's playing hooky.
My personal story, we're doing really good, so all right.
Right. That's because yours is having a good time reading a romance novel or playing a video game.
Yeah, really.
Whatever keeps you together. So, mine would be making model trains. So that's all on certain levels of the unseen. And the new conscious awareness is to realize that there is no difference there is no hierarchy, that you yourself are consciousness, and the greater aspect of you is the unseen, and that you have all the information, not at your physical fingertips, but within you. You have all that wisdom and knowledge.
That all that is projections and manifestations of a state of consciousness, right?
Well, yes. So the whole planet is a big, giant video game. And at one level of existence, you're experiencing it as yourself and other players in the game. At another level of awareness, you're aware of yourself and players in the game, and a sense that there's, programmers working behind the scenes. There's tech help behind the scenes. But at the highest level is that you are the designer of the game, and you are consciousness creating this. So what's the difference now is that we all can experience ourselves as consciousness much more profoundly. Doesn't mean that you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, or you have to sit there all by yourself. Though honestly, when you're aware of yourself as consciousness, you're aware of the unity of all, and you're not lonely. But you can play with all the multitudes if you want. But the most powerful and important thing to let people know is their own divinity, is their own seniority, is their own inner authority, is consciousness, is the fact they are consciousness.
So let's drop into heart-centered awareness and see where the rest of this goes. Right? Great. Let's give everyone a chance to reconnect with that in themselves, and maybe get some more clarity about what we're talking about, what we're sharing, and what you, the listener out there, are feeling. So let's take a moment here. Oh yeah, that's always good to just take a moment at a time. Just put your hand out and grab it. Put it to your heart, your physical heart. So start there. And just be grateful that it beats. We always want to start our work from that place, appreciation and gratitude for being the manifestation of consciousness that we each are. So we'll just hold that. Give the physical heart just such a magnificent job in all circumstances. It keeps going. There we go. And then notice the emotional terrain out there within you. And I can say out there, but it's still within you. So language, don't allow language to create obstacles. It's just everywhere. It's everything. Inward, outward, up and down, inside, outside. So just notice the emotional terrain. Be grateful that you have emotions. Even if sometimes you don't like them, that's okay. That's the egotistical part of us. So just notice from a neutral position. You may have one running, you may have several running at the same time. You have several running that you don't know anything about until it comes up. So we have a full spectrum of spices to play with. There we go. Just notice there's some sense of expanded, deepening awareness. And you might not put those things, but we got a lot of directional energy showing up here. So that interaction between being in and being out and being the same. And it's just a matter of focus. It's just a matter of your sensories at play. So, and let's go for then the third meaning of heart, the core essence of all. And this is where it gets wiggly. All right? This is where we lose the individuality back into the sense of all, which is what consciousness is. So just allow yourself to feel the bits of photons of light and the biophotons with a little bit of matter in them. And there's those resonances and frequencies and vibrations all at play. All that information that's out there in your stories, and the patterns just kind of soften. And there you go. There we go. There's something I've lost track of. Okay, that's fine. We'll just invite that awareness to come back when it's present. And just whatever you feel. Notice if you have a sense of holding on. I'm aware more of a sense of letting go. And in order to let go, it means I was holding on. So allowing flow, allowing ease. Right in this moment. You know, you could be driving, you could be washing your dishes, you can be talking to your boss. It doesn't really matter. This is your truth. That we work on so many different levels, and I think that's part of our conversation. All the different levels that we have no awareness of, that we move in and out of, and that we're so multidimensional, and we're just a focal point. We're just a placeholder in consciousness. And that there is so much out there. And that doesn't have to be threatening at all. It's expansive. And allow yourself to feel it that way. Allow yourself to see things and to hear things and to sense things much beyond what your normal day-to-day reality is. Because we're in both places at the same time. Just in some different level of awareness. Your realities are present and then they're not. And just when you just relax and take the definitions of who you think you are and how you experience the world, you can feel this softening. So information starts to become present, and it's a matter of holding a focus is all. And you become aware of the morphic fields if you tune yourself that way. You can see how bodies of knowledge are out there, and you can touch them and interact with the information there. Sometimes I think in this society, certainly, it's pretty hard to keep conscious of all that stuff going on. So we forget sometimes. There we go. Got a lot of shifting going on. You're doing a great job, listeners. Thank you for playing with us. Thank you for inviting Joan and I into your homes or cars or wherever you are listening. Okay, there. I think we're getting good, Joan. What you noticing?
I was noticing the broad spectrum of all.
Yeah.
And when
okay, watch yourself lift your hand. See what happens. Just kind of soft. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'll just watch the minutes tick by. So what I was aware of is as you go into heart space and you get a sense of yourself as a part of this broad spectrum of all, you really do get a sense of what this is like to the non-physical and as the non-physical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it kind of separates and spreads out there. And I really started to get an understanding of, that's hard to say when you're in heart space. I got an understanding, but I got an awareness of how it is all consciousness, how I am consciousness, how it's all consciousness, and it's consciousness interacting. It's consciousness playing with itself. And and then when you come back into form, you can feel the definitions start to come up, the separations that start to come up, and you can kind of get the sense of how we forget who we really are when we come into form. Mm-hmm. You know, we identify with ourselves as form, and then we feel separate from everything else. And you know, our bodies are the ones that don't know anything when they come out. You know, they don't know how to control their bladders. They don't know how to roll over. And so it's the body's not knowing, or the body's needing to learn stuff. It needs to learn how to walk. You know, it needs to learn how to feed itself. It's the body that needs to know all that kind of stuff. And then there's a confusion with that something outside of us needs to provide that information. And as consciousness, actually, we are the one that's outside of us as well as inside of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I'm struck with and enjoying so much here is there's a lightness in being, though it doesn't feel really light. It feels very almost viscous. That infinite sea of potential is just really, that's what I didn't mention. So you can really feel this embodiment in a whole different way is what I'm experiencing it. And this is just, it's so delightful because I think there is a little bit of light. There's a little bit of mass. There's a little bit of a lot of things that are just kind of in that reality state. I love it. It's very nice. Good job, people.
Yeah, I really can see it's like going in and out of focus.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who don't wear glasses, just imagine you crossing your eyes or just, you know, making your eyes go out of focus. And for the rest of us, we can just take our glasses off. And it's going out of focus and then bringing into focus. And when you bring your awareness into focus, then you can see reality is sharp and clear. And it's really how we manifest physical reality is by bringing it into focus, and then we're feeling the density. And what's that got to do with unseen help? So the unseen help is the out of focus part of us,
mm-hmm.
and
then we give it a friendly face, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, or not a friendly face,
right?
Depending on what we want to project.
That's exactly it. Right.
Yeah. And it's you know, it's interesting because in the past I played with different things. I was raised Presbyterian and we don't have saints. So,
okay.
So I played with this idea of saints. You know, there's Saint Rita. She is the patron saint of the impossible or lost causes. I think it is impossible or lost causes. And, you know, well, tune into what that energy is. And suddenly I felt this delightful energy, embodies the feeling of hope. And those things happen, one, because there might have been a person in the storyline who was in body who did some miraculous things, but it's more empowered by all the Catholics and everybody around the world who have been focusing on that.
And then it builds a morphic
field. Builds a morphic field of that quality, and then you can have access to that quality. Mm-hmm. And you can do that. That's a fun way to play in this game. You know, this is a world of adventures and density and effort. If you want to go ride your bicycle over on one side, you can do that. You can go drive your Tesla car over on another side, and it's all valid ways of playing the game. And you can also have fun realizing you can bring any quality you want into form from the vastness of who you already are. And I think that's the thing that is the new information, the thing we're all evolving to awareness of. And so for me, that's the message I want folks to realize, is that you are consciousness. You are your greater self, the essence of who you are, and you are the cosmic internet.
And it's kind of like taking the face off of things. So those are those resonances and frequencies and vibrations that we talk about from the quantum angle of things. So it's I've done many different things over the years, and at some point I saw a golden hand, and the association for me at the time was Edgar Cayce, and that was like, whoa, okay, that's great. I got a symbol, but what I also got with that was the awareness coming through that there was a frequency of healing. And that was something anybody could tap into, because we've had all this population, and there have been people that have had that skill set, and that I didn't need anything in particular except the awareness. And so the symbol just became a focal point for that energy. And for a couple of years, that was very present. And then it kind of moved out, and I haven't really seen that. Now, that doesn't mean that it's still not there. It's just maybe I've lost the need for that symbol, right? And as consciousness, all this is projection and manifestation and creation and stuff. And so things may change in how you interact with information over time in your own awareness.
Yeah, because as you go through your own personal evolution, you will have a different sensation, a different awareness. So, for instance, what happened to me a few years ago, I became aware, back when I was a healing teacher 30 years ago, what you'd have to do is you would introduce your students to healing guides, and then when they moved up through the ranks and they, went on to clairvoyant program or something like that, you needed to... They needed to upgrade their healing guides. They needed a guide that was more capable. And so I realized at some point, it's like, I have all these troops of unseen helps that help me with different areas of my business. And I felt like it was time for an upgrade. And so when I sat down to have my little staff meeting and I announced an upgrade, suddenly everything shifted. And they all stopped having this kind of form that I can sense, and they all became very dispersed, and just a sense like they got scattered all over the place. And I was like, do we have staff meetings anymore? And they're like, no, we'll just tweet you when you need information. So they became very like electrons, and I realized I've just am in the process of completing a small course that I've had with people learning about frequencies and playing with frequencies, and those are really they feel a little electrical or electronic. It's self-intelligent, but they don't have a sense of personality or anything. They just have a sense of quality. And I realized, to me, my upgraded way of interacting with what I would have formerly had guides and devas and angels or whatever, is that they've really become dispersed and spontaneous and like electrons.
You said a couple of you said a lot of great things in there, but what took my attention when you described the frequencies from having the personality to the, what was it that you said?
It went from the personality level, they dispersed, and
no, but you were describing them as just the energy of them,
right? Electrons, I said.
Yeah, but you said something there that was really like, okay, that's it. That's taking the face off of it, and allowing just what the dynamic of it was, and that's not the word you used, but
no.
So that's really important for us to understand that we like things to be user friendly, right? So, and you also described the hierarchy. You have lower guides, you have up guides, and it's really interesting how we like hierarchy. We like the layering. And then there's this place where it shifted to there was no layering anymore. It was just this broad spectrum out there. And I think that's interesting too, how we do organize information. And in one state it's there, and in another state it's in another way. So
yeah, and
to notice.
And to realize that in all of this and all of this information is that you are consciousness. The knowledge is not outside of you. Nothing outside of you is more senior than you are. You are the creator of your whole reality. So it would be like you are the game designer and the programmer putting on the virtual reality headset to play this game.
I think what's also important is to understand that each of us as individuals, we embody, disembody. And so consciousness is always at play. And so if we take, for instance, the energy of a ghost or something that had been present and now coming back to visit and has information or whatever it is to understand that there's still some dynamic at play there that's experiencing itself. It chose as consciousness to experience itself in an embodied state, experience a disembodied state, and being able to relate back and forth. And I think if you start to just expand and get beyond that personality mindset about things, you can really just see dynamics at play, which is what consciousness is. It's just everything. It's the all.
And your consciousness.
Yep. And it's consciousness. Everything's consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, language is so difficult, but the challenge is that from the get-go, our focus tends to be outside of who we are, outside of ourselves. And as consciousness, we've created a physical reality and a physical form to experience this reality in. And therefore, this is where you access the information from.
Right.
When you're informed.
Yeah, I think I'm going to explain that as there was consciousness first, and then it embodied as me and you, and it embodied into individual slices of the whole. And so consciousness is still there. It's still at play. It's still directing. It's just the form developed, and it's the way that we experience, choosing as consciousness to experience itself and in a different design. That's all. So, what do we feel out there, Joan? Are we alone?
We are never alone because we are unity. We are unity, and it is all alive. It is all us creating everything in the moment.
Well, and there's no time and space, right?
Right. It's all happening at once. So, as consciousness, all your lifetimes are happening at once. All your parallel lives are happening at once. All the multiple universes are all happening at once. It's happening in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. It's like those wonderful fractal pictures, that kind of just dissolve or something and dissolve or something and dissolve, and they're always in transitions, and there's something. And it's just this collective coming together, and then it just reveals itself into that, and then it dissolves itself and reveals itself into that. And it's this continuous process. And you go, whoa, how do they do that? Well, there's something at play there. I thought, yeah. It kind of feels like new thinking out there.
Yeah, I sort of feel like the tumblers are shifting, and this is new thinking. This is new information coming in, and what it also means is the old is dissolving. One of the things you and I talked about just before getting ready for today's show was, this is a paradigm shift that, people out there make a living channeling angels. People make, I'm an angel reader or whatever. And the angels and guides and devas and ghosts and everything else have been very helpful, beneficial in some ways. Information is a bridge from that we are physical to that there is a non-physical. And the next level now is that you are also non-physical that has a physical. So everybody has their place in the world. And I would invite you, if you've been a channeler or an angel reader or any of those things, and you're listening to this show and you have been feeling a shift within you, that maybe your techniques aren't working as well anymore, or you're just feeling like you're hitting a stumbling block, or there's just a longing for something else, this is probably the piece of information that you have tuned in to hear.
Yeah.
that it's upgrading your techniques from dial-up to Wi-Fi, getting wireless about connecting to the all that is.
Yeah, because if you take that personality out of it, right,
Mm-hmm.
and just allow it to be the energy, and ride the energy. See where it
And you know something about taking your personality out of it? It's an interesting thing to realize. I had this experience once at a David Spangler workshop out in Issaquah, where I was walking around, and I can't remember what we were sent out to focus on, but I suddenly, I tuned into the sense of overwhelming love, which is, the essence of consciousness. And I let myself fall into it with a fear that I was going to lose myself. And I actually came more into focus in the midst of all of this. So it feels contradictory, but it's not. It's like you are consciousness. You are the massive love creating all this. And within your physical body, part of the spectrum is a personality, is a sense of individuality in this. So you don't have to lose your personality. You don't have to become like bland and boring or Eckhart Tolle or anything like that. You can have
Not that
all
he's
of
bland and boring.
He's less than he used to be. I'm sure Kim helped with that. But so you can have all of this awareness, and you can be the greater aspect of yourself, and you can be playing in this form.
Yeah, I think there's all of us, come with our certain part of that personality is skill sets and awareness and vibratory, experiences. And if you just let things be, realize, like for me, that healing was a certain frequency, and I could tap in anywhere to that, and then it put me into all that. That's not necessarily a linear thing. I think we get in that trap too, with electrical magnetics and how that all happens, is that what it would be like to realize that, I'll just use healing as an example, was really a loop-de-loop. And so that when you access that, it just takes you places, and it's not just this flat line of with the little highs and lows to it. It's this real experience that you get carried away in, and you lose all sense of time. You lose all sense of that. And for those that get in their flow about creating and stuff, you know what I'm talking about, is that it's just information, and you write it and you enjoy it. And that's definitely, this kind of has the feeling of the whale, the big whale.
Yes, that
does
immense,
have that.
kind of ocean feeling.
Yes. Yeah, and how huge that heart is, the size of a Volkswagen bug. Yeah, this definitely has that depth to it. Yeah, nice. So there's all kinds of ways that help shows up that we're familiar with or not familiar with, and we just want to invite you to embrace it all. Don't allow yourself to be limited to one thing or another. That comes in with, I think, our training and our society acceptance and cultural biases and all that kind of thing, which we know is self-imposed limiting behavior. And anyway, we see how it plays out in the world these days. And you just have to allow yourself to, if there was help, and if you're not in a place of where you understand yourself as being helpful to yourself, then we're not judging how you allow help to show up. We don't want to do that at all. What we're saying is that in allowing help to show up is your awareness, that place in yourself where your help is, and how to play with that.
Wonderful stuff. And we want everybody to hold this information, hold the space of being in heart space, because we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we are talking about accessing unseen help as consciousness from a state of grace, and we'll be right back.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. I'm along here with Janet, and we have been talking about accessing unseen help as consciousness.
You know, Joan, we haven't talked too much about having guides. What do you want to offer about guides?
Well, they're the same as angels and other kinds of unseen help. What?
It is.
And
it
Davis,
is, though,
right.
Isn't it? Right? You know, but because we hear a lot about that. People
We
have
use different
guides.
languages to describe things, but it's just like the idea of devas.
Right.
You know, for some people, devas are part of their Tibetan, Buddhist heritage, and angels have qualities of personalities or whatever. And so you talk about my guides. Well, you've got healing guides, and now it's you can still do that. You don't have to let go of your guides, but you could try upgrading and see what happens.
Yeah, what is an upgrade?
I mean, for me, I suddenly felt like I went from having this nice, felt like this table of people you would see at the Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or something like that. And they suddenly all became these millennials, at the time it was BlackBerry, but, with iPhones. And they're all over the place. So, they'll tweet you when it's convenient.
Yeah, I've always kind of felt that dynamic was the shades of myself that for whatever reason of trauma or distress or something got a little bit separated in whatever was going on at the time for me. And that as consciousness, we're all those bits and pieces and parts of personality and character and strength, etc., all just are come back. There's a lot less sense of separateness anymore about all those kind of things. So when at age 14, it might have been important to have something that was unseen to be present around me, where now I realize, that was what was going on at the time, and I can embrace it. I haven't lost it. I just embrace it from a different place.
Well, and, when I was at more of an egoic awareness level, I was quite relieved to know that there was an intelligence greater than myself, because my best thinking had gotten myself into the stuck and limited place.
Yeah, that was little you, right?
Yes,
I mean,
right.
When we talk about that.
And so that's the thing people need to realize. It's like, that's ego, or when you get in that space, I am consciousness and nobody else is. You're all an illusion. It's like,
that's still egotism.
That is still egotism.
Egotism.
Right. And that's, we stumble over the language here that you are consciousness, and so am I. And as consciousness, we create this reality, and we're creating all of our delicious individual experiences in it. And we are consciousness. And so when you shift your individual awareness to yourself as consciousness, your whole life completely changes. It shifts. You don't feel like a victim anymore. You don't feel helpless. You don't feel frustrated. You may even happily accept all the limitations in your life because, hey, this is a really fun way to play the game.
And from the human perspective, this isn't fun. But when you go back to the consciousness, you go, oh, I see what I'm doing. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, the attachment it totally shifts. And in that awareness, the dynamics can totally change about what you've been experiencing, the state you have found yourself in. And so we're really giving ourselves permission to be whole in a sense of wholeness, right? Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? I realize this is kind of a reverse thing, but this kind of ties into what we're talking about next week.
Okay.
I'm going to segue to that. So next week, we're going to be talking about consciousness and the power of beyond the body experiences. So a lot of us, that's another bridge for being aware that we are more than our physical form is, people will gain greater consciousness with near-death experiences. But you can also get the same experience in deep meditation or break down and break through into greater knowing just from, dealing with stressful times and, the aspect of yourself that's your ego just kind of cracks apart and you become more who you are.
And we welcome those experiences.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, anytime we can crack apart. We're all for it.
It's basically, Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie had very similar experiences where they hit a level of deep depression, suicidal depression, and the next day they woke up and their ego was gone. So you don't have to do that now, boys and girls. But so there's a lot of stuff there, and we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be exploring what happens to us when we have these incredible experiences and how we all benefit from them.
And no two experiences are alike. That's important to realize. We get all these labels and we get caught up in the details and stuff. And it's to understand you can eat an orange and have this incredible experience that transforms your life.
If you like oranges.
If you like oranges. And the good part is if you don't like oranges and then you have this incredible experience with an orange, it's going to be to the person, and we'll get into all that. And be careful what you wish for sometimes. That sounds really neat, and then you go, oh, okay. Change is happening, and what have we invited into our lives?
Yeah. Well, I want to invite people into our lives. I would like to invite you to go deeper with us and connect with us beyond the show. I want to let you know that we have a website, ConsciousConversationsWithJoanandJanet.com, and you can go access our podcasts. You can listen to the show again if you're listening to it live, and you can access all our other past shows there. You can also access my website and Janet's website and all the different things that we do there. We also write blogs. I write mine on Fridays. She writes hers on Mondays, and you can read them there. You can find out about our meetups. We hold meetups around the Puget Sound in Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, University Place, Lakewood, sometimes Olympia, and next month in Kent, and also in Portland twice a week at Janet's house in Portland, and those are phenomenal experiences.
Your stuff really cooks. The people I talk to who've been to your stuff, they enjoy you so much, Joan. You have a wonderful time.
Well, what's so fun about this is it's just like the conversations we have together is that we're both talking essentially about the same thing, and we have such a different approach to it. And so, people can go to your house and they'll end up falling on their butts on your nice comfy sofa and come away with like a wow, really different experience. And you can come to one of my meetups at a library or whatever and have very stimulating conversation and learn how to step into parallel universes. Stepping into Janet's house is stepping into a parallel universe all by itself. So they're very different things. And so you can find out about our meetups there. You can find out about the different sessions I do, because Janet's sessions that she does by Skype and phone all around the world really does really amazing transformative work. My group coaching and private coaching courses are pretty amazing stuff as well. They give you the tools to do it for yourself. And then you can also connect with us on Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Joan Marjorie Newcomb, and Janet is on Facebook as Janet Barrett, and the show is on Facebook, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can follow us on Twitter at Joan and Janet. I'm on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube. So I do videos once or twice a week, and I have a whole arsenal of videos. A whole course load. You can find out about the techniques that I talk about by finding my show on YouTube, Joan M. Newcomb. You can find the show on YouTube. All of our past shows are on YouTube. So if that's your favorite mode of connecting, you can just lie down and bliss out. Bliss out, Janet, taking us into heart space.
We just, there is no time or space. So listen to the podcast when you want. How easy can it be?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no reason. And there's so many things, wonderful things in the world out there that we're all tapping into and sharing and building this resonance that, you know, as consciousness, don't have to be oriented to going to hell in a handbasket thing. It's about the expansiveness that comes from knowing that there's like mind out there in different ways. And life is wonderful. Don't ever think it isn't.
One last quickie thing is to let you know is if you're enjoying these shows and you're not able to call in live, but you'd like to, join us for our Conscious Conference Call. On the third Thursday of every month, we do a Conscious Conference Call, and it is a way to do the same experience up close and personal.
Mm-hmm.
And you can call in and you can participate in the conversation, and it's a very strong resonance because it's not dispersed over 190 countries. So you can have a really up close and personal experience of being in heart space like this. So that next one is on November 17th, 7 p.m. Pacific, and you can find it on our website, ConsciousConversationsWithJoanandJanet.com.
Thank you, everyone. Well,
Yeah.
how lovely. Thank you, Joan. It's been lovely.
Yeah. So just let everyone know there is no time or space is consciousness. So no matter when you're listening to this, you've actually helped co-create this in the moment. And you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
And tune in to us next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.